What's good, Waging World? It's your boy Five Star in Vegas. I'm broadcasting live as always from my beautiful home in beautiful Summerlin, Nevada. This is the Waging World, and then with my co-host, the OG of the show, the only Sacramento Kings fan that I know in Sacramento. Got the best of my Rockets last night, bookie play, as they defeat the Houston Rockets. What's good, Spreader? Still, how are you?
I actually went with your squad last night, so I was disappointed. I had the 4.5.
Oh,
Some tough calls there at the end there.
So you would have jinx spread. You know,
I
anytime,
probably was.
yeah,
Dylan
anytime you
Brooks.
go against your team,
Dylan
both
Brooks
of
got a
us.
couple reputation calls there at the end. I don't know if those were really fouls, but whatever.
Man, anytime you go against your team that you love at the heart, it seems like it never works. So I try not to either I'm betting with the team that I love or I'm not betting the game. A lot of people like to go against their team and bet against them because that way it guarantees they win. But I kind
Yeah,
of like
or
my
you have like a good feel for the team. I'll be honest, I wasn't necessarily fading the Kings there. They've been playing well. I just thought Houston was going to be able to get some stops against them.
yeah. But the thing with that one for me was I'd rather win money than my team win. Because at the end of the day, all of those guys are going to drive home to some really nice houses and nice cars and keep living their life. We got to worry about ourselves. So I don't get too caught up in fandom. I root for my teams that I like, but at the end of the day, my money and my life always comes first. Remember that, way in the world. Don't become such a fanboy that you forget about priorities. Man, we don't have any time for the past today. We got a big weekend. It's my wife's birthday coming up, so happy birthday to her. On MLK Day is her birthday, and the national championship is that day. So I'm really excited about the weekend. We're about to go have a great time. So no need to look at the past. Like I said, we did well. We won the bottom parlay. We won all the legs of it. So that's a great thing. Let's go on and get into this football, man. This is the most important weekend of the football season as we have the division games going on in the NFL. Last week that we have multiple games. And then we have the final game of the national championship of college football coming up on Monday. Let's get into the present.
Well, and Five Star, you almost gave us the perfect segue. We had talked about our two favorite teams facing off. And now your favorite team is going to be the first one to kick off on Saturday. And that's the Houston Texans against the Kansas City Chiefs. As indicated by our previous conversation, I have no problems betting against my favorite team. However, in this case, and we talked about it on Wednesday, and if you guys missed Wednesday's show, a lot of fun debate and back and forth on some of these quarterbacks and where we should be ranking them. But your main takeaway should be that I'm very high on this Houston Texans defense. I think that they've continued to improve as the season goes on, and I know everybody loves Kansas City and just assumes they're going to kick it into gear. But I've seen it from the Texans defense on the field. I'd rather go with pure facts over just the assumption that this team's going to continue to improve. Five Star, my main concern now is going to be Houston going outdoors in that colder weather. We know that, warm weather cities sometimes do struggle when they have to play in that environment. So address that concern for me as well. And then go ahead and break down this exciting game because everyone's just assuming the Chiefs are going to win. And, of course, they are rightfully favored. But I think that people are kind of overlooking Houston here. And I definitely want the points. And I think they're a live dog as well. Talk to me about this game.
Yeah, I think that they're a live dog. I worry about the officiating anytime you're in a Kansas City game. I don't know if they allow the Texans to cross the finish line, but I do think the Texans stay in this game because defense travels. And the worse the weather, the better for defenses. And we're going to be dealing with some wintry conditions. We know Mahomes is lights out. He hasn't thrown an interception since week 11. But the Texans have a really good defense, man, really good defensive backfield. One thing that I'll be looking for in this game is Bobby Slowick. What do you do? Do you focus on getting the ball to Nico Collins? I think he does. I think Nico Collins goes over 80 yards receiving, which is his number. And I think that they put him in situations where he's successful. With Joe Mixon kind of injured and missing some practice this week, we know he's a warrior and he's going to still play. But I think the offense has to focus on hitting some big plays, and that's going to be the Nico Collins. Another it's a lot of props I like on this game. I do like the Texans on the side, but I really like Will Anderson to get a sack at -117. They're gonna have to double Danielle Hunter. Last time that the Texans came to Kansas City, they did not get a sack, and that's a big thing with D'Amico and the way he likes to run his offense. They had to run a stunt and a blitz with Christian Harris to get a sack on Mahomes, and that was the only one. This week, I think we see something different. I think Will Anderson has shown in the past that he's a big time player that comes to playing these type of moments. I think that he does get to Mahomes and get him down at least one time at -117. That's a great number. I'm also looking for Eric Murray on the defensive side to have a good game. His numbers pretty low, over 6.5 tackles plus assists. He's had 12 tackles plus assists and 14 tackles plus assists and 10 tackles plus assists in the last 3 or 4 games. 10 against San Diego, 10 against the Chargers, 12 the last time that these teams met, and 14 against Baltimore. What this shows me is what we already know. The Texans have a really good defensive line, but their linebackers are kind of weak. That's the one weakness on this defense. Hopefully, Christian Harris can, now that he's back on the field and playing, he can get back into the form that he was into last year. But for right now, the linebacking core is the weakness of that defense. So Eric Murray at safety ends up having to make a lot of tackles to prevent big plays. And I also expect D'Amico to play him close to the line on some plays where he'll be able to get in the backfield and make some plays. So Eric Murray to go over 6.5 tackles is one for me. I also like both of these kickers to go over 1.5 field goals in this game. I think it's going to be low scoring. You know, Booker's money in the playoffs, and Fairburn has been the biggest offensive weapon for the Texans actually the last part of the season. He's went over 2 field goals in 14 of the 18 games they played this year. Booker's been hurt somewhat, but I think that he still is a guy that you can count on to get 2 field goals in a game like this. That's going to be really defensive focused. Key to the game, do we get the CJ that we saw after the muff snap? It seemed like he clicked after that. After he muffed that snap and he ran around in the second quarter, they were down 6-0 to the Chargers. He ends up turning to a big play to Xavier Hutchinson for 34 yards. After that, we saw the old CJ. I'm hoping that it continues into this week. The confidence, the swag is back. Scramble, man. If you got to tuck the ball and make a play, what you have to. That's sometimes the best offense against a really good defense is the quarterback becoming the 11th guy and be it becoming a run. It's hard to account for him. And I need CJ to use his legs to stay in this one because they're really short on the offensive side. As we know, this was the game with Tank Dell ended up getting lost for the whole season. He was having a really good game before getting injured in this one. Xavier Hutchinson, I expect him to have a big impact on this game. Robert Woods is getting a little long in the tooth. He's also been injured all week. Xavier Hudson was a really good wide receiver at Iowa State. Made some really good plays. I think that he shows up. I don't trust Mechie. I believe that C.J. Stroud doesn't trust Mechie. Mechie's dropped a lot of balls since coming back into the lineup and replacing the receivers that are hurt on the team. So I don't know, man. I don't know if I can expect him to look his way a lot, but I know he does trust Xavier Hudson. I think Hudson can go over 1.5 receptions, so keep that in mind as well. As far as the side, got to play the good guys. Got to go with the Texans when you got a defense like they have. You got to go with the Texans when you have a defensive coordinator at head coach like they have with D'Amico Ryans. Also, another thing to keep in mind, Kansas City has not won any games this season by double digits. They play a lot of close games, man. The biggest win they had was 8 points outside of that game against Pittsburgh, but I'm not going to count that one because we know that Pittsburgh's offense isn't feasible. I think that the Texans have a much more potent attack and a much better OC than the Pittsburgh Steelers have. So, as I said, outside of that, really, if you look at it, the Chiefs have not covered all year. They haven't won by wide margins, and I think the Texans can keep this close off of defense and pride and familiarity. So give me the Texans +9 on this game.
All right, we are on the same side, and of course, giving the people some props. The evening game that night will be the Washington Commanders. They're taking on the Detroit Lions. The Lions have taken money. This opened at 10. Commanders money flew in early in the week, and then it got bet right back out. So there's significant groups on both sides that like both sides of this game. My original thought was to take the Commanders, but I'm kind of concerned about the short week. and the home field advantage here for Detroit as they continue to get healthy coming off that bye. Um, Also, Detroit, their coordinators are doing like 5,000 interviews this week. I wonder if that negatively affects them. Obviously, this has been going on for a while. Maybe someone should look into it. And I don't know how much you could definitively lock down there, but you got Johnson and Glenn doing all these interviews this week too. I wonder if that affects the game at all. So I don't have a plan this game. I actually like our Texans position a lot more. I'm leaning towards the Lions, but not enough to get involved. Not too excited to run and go lay 10 points in the NFL, even if it is the playoffs and one of the best teams in the league.
Yeah, I like this game more than I like the Texans. I'm on Washington on this game
Okay.
plus 10. And the reason why is you know how I feel about Dan Quinn. I think that he's going to have a game plan in place to keep this game competitive. I don't see Dan Quinn getting blown out. If you look over the schedule this year, the biggest loss that Washington had was by 8 points at Philly. So I think that they have a style that allows them to play games close. Also, we're definitely gonna be looking for a backdoor cover at the least with this one, with the way that Jaden Daniels plays in the fourth quarter. He's 72% passing completion in the fourth quarter with 12 touchdowns. So that's something to look at. He's also led 5 comeback wins this season. So Jaden Daniels, no matter what the score is, he's going to keep shooting. He's going to keep firing. Detroit has not played a quarterback anything like Jaden Daniels. The only dual threat quarterback that they played who actually threatened the defense with their legs and their arm was Josh Allen. He put 48 points up on Detroit. So I think that this is going to be more difficult than people think, just off the fact that we have a Super Bowl head coach. Coach has been around a long time and a coach who's really good at drawing up plans. He has Bobby Wagner in there as his coach on the field. Wagner was hurt last week, and he missed a couple of days of practice. But I think it's more being a veteran. I'm sure that he'll take his little Toradol shot before the game and be ready to go. So I expect Washington to give these guys a real game. I think that they have a really competitive nature, not only with their head coach and their quarterback, but I think that Cliff Kingsbury will come up with some ways to take advantage of those injuries. Detroit is weak in the defensive backfield, and you can put some points up on them, and you also can get to them with your weapons. I think that Terry McLaurin has over 5 receptions, which is minus 120. I think he's the type of guy that shows up in these type of games, and I think that it becomes a pretty high scoring affair inside the dome where the Commanders do have to shoot. Besides that last game against Minnesota, which got Aaron Glenn his job that he's about to get for a head coaching position, think about it. How was Detroit playing in those games? Their defense was not playing good, and now they're playing a team who didn't punt last week, a team that's one of the most efficient offenses in the game. I'm not laying 10 points in any playoff game, just period, but especially not against a guy like Dan Quinn with a quarterback in there like Jaden Daniels. So I'll definitely be on the Commanders plus 10. I'm going to play that for sure. Like that, I like that one more than the Texans. And also, like, as I said, McLaurin to go over 5.5 receptions. I think he has a big game. I think Tim Patrick has more than 1.5 receptions. Also for Detroit Lions, he's kind of unsung hero. Guy came over from the Broncos. They love him in the locker room. 1.5 is a really low number because I expect the Lions to still throw the ball around a little bit. As you know, Ben Johnson does like to throw the ball, even though they have a dominant run game, and that's really what he should be leaning on is working the clock and running the ball behind that big offensive line, but I don't think he'll be able to help himself, and I think they throw some. But give me the Commanders for sure, plus 10.
All right. 5 stars on the Commanders there. So you got 2 dogs on Saturday. Now let's look ahead to Sunday's matchups. The Los Angeles Rams coming off that dominant win over the Minnesota Vikings. However, it was not a traditional home game. It was in Arizona. A little bit extra travel. Talked about it last week going into this game, but of course still the specter of the wildfires hanging over the head of the Rams players in Los Angeles. However, they were able to shake it off just fine last week, but now they face an even tougher task traveling across country to one of the craziest stadiums in the league, Lincoln Financial, with the Philadelphia Eagles fans. The Eagles have been solid all year. After starting off 2-2, they've been the class of the NFC in my mind. However, there are some concerns about their passing attack and the health of their best players, especially losing a couple key pieces on defense during the win last week. I like the Eagles to cover here. Don't necessarily love it, though. I'd love to hear what you're thinking. How are you approaching this one?
This is my most difficult game of the week because I think that the Rams have a coaching advantage. I think that Sean McVay is a much better coach than Nick Sirianni. But Nick Sirianni's in the position now where he has some really good coordinators, and we know that if he has some good coordinators, they can kind of hide what he does. Vic Fangio is completely changed everything with that Eagles defense, man. They're one of the best defenses in the whole league now. And that's just the truth about the matter. As you see, they've been holding teams down the last games, man. Really potent offense like Green Bay, holding them to 10 points. They've been just a really good, solid team. The only team that they had a hiccup against was the Commanders. Why I like the Commanders, as I said before in Detroit, Commanders are extremely efficient. They were able to put up 33 points against the Eagles. But outside of that, no one else has. Kellen Moore does a good job with that offense, getting the ball to Saquon Barkley, running plays that benefit Jalen Hurts, getting his receivers in good positions to win. I'm not a totals player, but everything in this game for me says under. You got really bad conditions that we're expecting. With, as you guys know by now, I'm sure it's a bad storm coming through the East Coast right now. So they're expecting some wintry conditions, man. And it's going to be some snow and rain during this game. So now we got Matt Stafford, who goes from playing in Detroit indoors at Ford Field, now to playing for the Rams indoors at Intuit Stadium. How does he handle playing outside? We know he's a veteran. But the thing about the Rams is they don't understand, even though the Rams have these flashy uniforms and are known throughout their history of being a scoring team, McVay has kind of played to the strength of this team, and they run the ball with Kyron Williams, and they play defense. Their defense has been low key one of the best defenses in the league. They're so young. A lot of babies over there, led by a grown man in Jared Verse. He's a rookie, but he's a grown ass man, and he plays like it. He was able to score last week on the scoop and score. But if you look at the Rams defense in the last month, in games where the full lineup was there, because they set a lot of people against Seattle, they gave up 6 points on the road to the Niners. They gave up 9 points at the Jets. They gave up 9 points to Arizona. They gave up 9 points to a really potent Minnesota offense last week in the wild card. And we know that Kevin O'Connell can call plays. So I keep an eye on this Rams defense. Chris Shula, I think he's kin to Don Shula, most likely with that name. He's a hell of a coach, man, and he has that defense playing really good with a bunch of young pieces. And I think that the Rams are going to stir it up a little bit, man. But I lean toward the under, as I said. It's a really low number, 44 and a half. I'm sure all the squares will be playing the over on this one, but I think it stays low. I think that it stays pretty low, man. I think that it goes under. In the last 10, Philadelphia's 3-7 to the under, and the Rams are 4-6 to the under. So both of them have been under teams and under on a lot of really low totals. So I think it gets ugly. I think that McVay's smart enough to not turn this into a shootout. I think he wants to control the ball and be efficient. Also, give me Kyron Williams to score a touchdown. He's been a touchdown machine. If I'm not mistaken, he has to lead the league in scoring touchdown score because I bet him every week and he always comes through. He's now scored in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He scored 7 or 8 last games. And I think that he gets it done again around the goal line. They give it to him, and he has a real nose for the goal line. Also, he's been more involved in the passing game around the end zone later. So my main plays on this one is I lean heavy to the under on it with the Eagles and Rams going under 44.5. And then I also will definitely play Kyron Williams to score a touchdown at -105.
All right. Liking the under, and good look there on Kyron Williams. Are you ready to move on to the main event of the weekend, the heavyweight showdown between Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, the Buffalo Bills, the Baltimore Ravens? Now, a lot is going to be made about the result of this game. There's going to be a huge referendum on the winners and the losers here. But who do you like in this game? I like the Bills, but I don't really have a lot of good information to go for it. Statistically, Baltimore's been a much better team, especially if you sort as of late. Their defense really came on and improved towards the end of the year. Of course,
So
Baltimore
why do you
blew
like the
out.
Bills? Yeah.
I have a hunch. I just have a hunch that home field advantage is just going to be too
Do you
much.
have a hunch, or are you just low key rooting for Josh Allen?
Both, but I haven't put any money on it yet.
Okay.
So,
Well, don't put no money on it because Baltimore about to beat their ass.
all right, break down why, because mine wasn't a very good breakdown. Like I said, I want to support Buffalo, but it's hard to really find reasons behind what I just said. I have a hunch, and that's going to be a rowdy home field advantage.
No one cares about the home field advantage. The Ravens have several factors that are going their way in this one. First of all, they beat the hell out the Bills early this season, so they got to be confident. Both these quarterbacks are playing really good this year because of their running back in the backfield. Everyone talks about Derrick Henry, but Derrick Henry actually benefited more from Lamar than Lamar benefited from him. And the reason why is the pressure that Lamar puts on the defensive ends and the outside linebackers with his ability to keep the ball. And we know that he can turn the corner and take it to the house. They have to stretch out wide, and that allows big running lanes for Derrick Henry. And you know, if you get Derrick Henry to the second level, he's going to mow a linebacker, he's going to mow a DB, stiff arm is to the house, big game. And that's why we've seen so many big runs this year. The league is absolutely idiots for allowing Derrick Henry to get over there into that system with the Ravens, with how they already designed run plays and with the threat of Lamar on the keeper. So that's a really unstoppable run offense, one of the most unstoppable run offenses we've seen in the league. And they're going against a team who's not that good against the run, man. The Buffalo is in the middle of the pack on stopping the run. If you look at them, they're also really small up front. Their biggest lineman is like 270, 280. So I think that the Ravens are going to maul them. The Ravens are number one in total yards, number one in yards per play, number one in rush yards, number one in yards per rush, number two in rush attempts. They're also number one in yards per completion, number one in yards per attempt on passes, and Lamar has the number one QB rating in the whole league. So I don't see a path to victory here for Buffalo. Buffalo has played well this year, and Josh Allen has protected the ball because he didn't have to be Superman. He could feed the ball to his great young running back, and you know his brother was really good too. Now you got James Cook coming in doing just what his brother Dalvin did in Minnesota and being a real factor. James Cook has been a great running back this year. I want to say he leads the league in touchdown runs, right, with Derrick Henry. I think they both have 16 or something like that. So people aren't factoring in how important the run game has been in protecting Josh Allen this year. I don't think that Buffalo will have success running the ball against Baltimore because that's Baltimore's thing. They're going to shut down the run. They're number one in defense against the run. They're number one in every category against the run. The only way that Buffalo wins this game is throwing the ball. Okay, it's going to be a blizzard. And who are the receivers that Josh Allen can trust to consistently catch the ball? I feel like Buffalo is more a dome team. They're more equipped to play inside now with the way that Josh Allen runs things, with it's pretty much just him dropping back, guys all going out spread and make something happen. Whereas I think of Baltimore, Lamar doesn't have to do anything but run the ball. He can hand the ball off to Henry and keep the ball himself, just like he did last week, over and over and over again. And Buffalo is not going to be able to consistently get them off the field. Whereas, and I think that Baltimore turns over Josh Allen once or twice, and I also think that they are able to shut down James Cook and make it where they have to strictly rely on Josh Allen throwing the ball. And in those conditions, I don't think that's good. A lot of pressure on the Ravens this game to come through, and I think it's going to bring the best out of them. The last time that Lamar went to Buffalo was last year in the division playoffs, and he was embarrassed, and they lost 17-3. He's the MVP, and he will be motivated for this game. The Ravens are going to win this game. Give me Baltimore.
All right. 5-star liking the Baltimore Ravens to get the big win over.
I mean, there's no path to victory that you can find statistically or from watching film for Buffalo. It's none. Only thing is everybody just want Josh Allen to win, and I can't bet like that. I have to bet on things that are real. And what's real is that the Ravens defense is the best against the run. What's real is that the Ravens have the best running offense and best offense overall in the whole league. So what's real is 41 touchdown passes and 4 interceptions. So like I got to deal with reality, and I'm not going to get into the feel good story of everybody just cheering for Josh Allen. I hope they just go down there and bet all their money on him, and it gets me in a sweet spot with Baltimore not having a lot of public money on him.
Yeah, I would say there are a couple ways. The path for victory would be, of course, just because Baltimore has had success against the run before. If the Bills are able to get that rushing attack going, which I don't think is completely out of the question because of how good they've been this year, that will be an advantage. I still think Josh Allen's a cheat code on third downs, even 3rd and 7s or more. His ability to tuck and run, keep drives going. And I do think it will be a close game. And in these close games, anything can happen with some weird momentum, right? A missed field goal, a wacky fumble, things of that nature. And that's where I do think the home field advantage could be huge. When Buffalo played Baltimore earlier this season, they were really banged up. I think they're much better now as far as the health of their players. They were missing some players in that game. That was also kind of a let down spot for them coming off a bunch of huge wins where Baltimore was in a must-win situation because of the slow start to their season. Buffalo's offense, I think, is better than you're giving them credit for in that breakdown. Even though Baltimore has had a good defense this year, I do think there's a chance for Buffalo to score. So, we're opposite here, but you're obviously a lot more convinced in your pick, and I'm just kind of playing devil's advocate. We have one.
I'm really convinced in mine.
Cool. Well, that hopefully at least it's a good game though, because that's Sunday night, and I'm definitely going to be.
I don't want a good game.
Hoping for some good entertainment, and if it's 27-10 at halftime, I'm going to be pretty disappointed.
That's what I'm looking forward to. I need a nice blowout.
All right, 5:30, and that happens sometimes, right? When we're really looking forward to these games, they end up being the worst ones.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Notre Dame. They're taking on Ohio State. The line is 9. Seemed like a lot to me. But you're the college football expert. Break it down. What do you expect in the final game of the college football season?
I'm not laying that many points against Marcus Freeman. I just feel like I don't know how Notre Dame scores, only because Riley Leonard. If you look outside, Notre Dame really has some awesome pieces at wide receivers. They have some guys who could play anywhere in college football, at the wide opposition. It's just, can Riley Leonard be consistent enough in the pass game? But what I do know about Riley Leonard is he has guts, and he's a poor man's Josh Allen in college football, whereas he'll tuck it, and he's a lot more stronger, a lot more faster than you think he is. And he's gritty, man. That kid gritty at Duke, and he's gritty with Notre Dame. So Riley Leonard, not that he doesn't get it done pretty, but he does get it done. On the other side of the field, Will Howard can't scramble. He has to work from the pocket. He's had some good showings, and he's had some horrible showings against good defenses like Michigan and Texas. I kind of got exposed like the guy that I kind of knew he was at Kansas State. Texas saved him last week. I can't believe still that Texas gave that screen up to Trevion Henderson and made it 14-7 at half. That changed the entire complexity of this game because Will Howard needs game pressure on him. And I think Marcus Freeman is smart enough to figure out a way to keep it that way. Notre Dame really matches up in the trenches pretty good against Ohio State. I don't think they'll get bullied by them like some teams. I really like the defensive backfield for Notre Dame. I think that they're better than Texas's backfield. I think that they can pick off Will Howard and trick him into some bad plays because Marcus Freeman, much like D'Amico Ryans, is really great defensive play designer because he played linebacker. He was a play caller like D'Amico, a lot of on-field experience, and now he's up in the booth. Went up to the booth. Now he's leading the charge as the head coach. He's seen the game in a lot of perspectives, and much like a Sean McVay, Sean Payton on offense, we don't give enough credit to these guys like Vic Fangio and D'Amico Ryans and Marcus Freeman who can call defense and make defense actually a part of the scheme and actually affects the win-loss because of the way that they can cause turnovers, tackles for losses, momentum swing plays. And Notre Dame makes a lot of plays on defense. I just feel like in this national championship game, they're undervaluing the fight of Notre Dame. They're also undervaluing the fact that Will Howard is a little bit overrated. Jeremiah Smith didn't get any balls last week as Texas was all over him, and that's made that game so close. If not for the bad play with Quinn Ewers had to kind of force a play on fourth down because of the horrific sequence of game of play calls by Sharp, then that game would have been a lot closer. It ends up being 28-14 because Jack Sawyer with the big scoop and score right before the game ends. I think Ohio State was lucky to get out of the last game with a cover, and I don't think that they get that cover. I don't think that Notre Dame gives them those opportunities just because, as I said, the fight that they have. These teams played in 23. I remember the game. Marcus Freeman was the coach. They held down Ohio State, and Ohio State, to me, had a much better offensive quarterback at that time with Kyle McCord. I think he's better than Will Howard, and Notre Dame gave them all that they could handle. Um, it was a 3-0 in the first half, so I look to the under for sure on this game. First half, I think that it doesn't pick up until the second half. First half, it'll be a lot of hard hitting, a lot of good defense on both sides. So my play on this one's going to be first half, Ohio State and Notre Dame to go under. I think it's 23, if I'm not mistaken, is the number 23 and a half or something like that. And then I like Notre Dame for the game at +8. I think the Notre Dame stays in this one. I wouldn't be surprised if this game goes to overtime. It's that type of game where I think it comes down to a 20-20 or something, and we get into overtime. That's why I would not play the full game on the total because this looks like it has overtime written all over it to me. As I said, do not count out those Notre Dame defensive backs. Those kids can play, and I think that they're going to show up. So Notre Dame +8 for me and the under on the first half.
All right, there you have it. Let's go to the people segment, 5-star, the ball and parlay. I'm going to start us off because I'm going to take one of your plays, I think, and then I'll give you the rest of the games.
Okay.
Give me the Houston Texans +9. That's my favorite play of the weekend. So I'll right off the bat, I'll be able to find out how my weekend's going. But I've just said it before. I think this Texans defense is really good, and just because the fact that they're not an historic franchise with the defense like the Ravens or the Eagles or the Steelers, I think we're kind of discounting how good this Texans defense really is. You said it in your breakdown. Defense travels, and this Kansas City team, what have they done all year? They've showed the ability to win in close games. So with 9 points in my pocket, I'd love to just see this go down to the final play. Give me the Houston Texans +9.
I'm going to go to tennis, man. Let's go to the Australian Open tonight. It'll be a pretty late game, if I'm not mistaken. I think it starts at, you'll have time, guys, because it'll start at 5:30 Pacific Standard Time and probably about like 7:30 Central Standard Time. We're going with Ava Leaks to defeat Jacqueline Christian. Jacqueline Christian, young girl, 26 years old from Romania, has some little fight to her. She's put up a couple of little situations. Actually, a top 100 player, whereas Lisa's outside the top 100. The line is telling you what it is, though, because Lisa's ranked 128, but she's favored -150, and that's because she's had a lot of success versus Jacqueline Christian. Don't get me wrong, Christian is a tough player. They went 3 sets in all 3 matches, but as recently as last year, she's beaten her twice, and then she also beat her in 2023. Lisa could she likes to play 3-set matches, so I would not be surprised if this goes to 3 sets. But I think at the end of the day, she's able to get it done. So give me Ava Lease at -150 to defeat Jacqueline Christian in the round of 16 at Australia's two ladies who really got in there, and people didn't expect them to be where they're at, but they're there, and I think that Lease gets it done. Now let's go to football. My main play is going to be the Commanders. I'm just not giving up double digits against Jaden Daniels with the type of fourth quarter quarterback he's been, and also with the way that Dan Quinn calls defense. I think that those guys can stay in the game. I don't think that they get embarrassed. I don't think that it becomes a part in Detroit. I think it's going to be a good, close game, and I think that the Commanders can at least backdoor cover that. So give me the Commanders +10. I also will be playing Lamar Jackson. I think that the Ravens get it done. It's nothing that I've seen from watching the Bills that jumps off the screen and makes me say this is a Super Bowl team. The only thing that I see is Josh Allen being Superman and doing some great things. James Cook being unheralded, but I don't think that James Cook will be much of a factor in this game. I think that Baltimore's defense comes to play. They've been lights out of late. Zach Orr's team is getting implemented to what he likes to do, and he's been a really good young first season DC, and I think that they show up for him. I also think that Lamar gets that monkey off his back because he knows that last year he went home at Buffalo and everyone's been talking about it. So give me the Ravens as well. So that's 3 picks from me. You heard what spread's going. He's rolling with the dogs as we do. We roll with the underdogs, the underground and the underdogs over here. As we both like the dogs in this one. He likes the Texans. I like the Commanders. I also like Ava Lease. I also like the Ravens to get it done. They're my favorite to win the Super Bowl at this point. Anything for the people before we get out of this spread?
Man, this is one of the best weekends of football that we are going to have all year with 4 great divisional playoff round games, and then capping it off Monday night with that good game between Notre Dame and Ohio State. So I can't wait to talk about the fallout with you next Wednesday, and we'll keep moving ahead.
Yeah, the most important weekend in football, man. Hey, guys, best of luck to you all on this weekend. As always, I dedicate this show to the greatest Houston sports fan I know, and that's my father, John H. Lindsay. I do this for you, Dad. Rockets looking good. Texas looking good. Let's see what the Astros do. Great time to be a Houston fan. Hey, guys, we'll get up with you guys on Wednesday. Let's cash these tickets over the weekend. This is the Wagering World.